Well, so we're gonna rock and roll. So in terms of the Melt Ball NFTs, it absolutely is the future of NFTs because for the first time that we've seen on a large scale, we're seeing a professional athlete tie his personal accomplishments directly to his community. Amazing community building, amazing utility. One of the first athletes professionally that we've seen do NFTs in such a way that really aligns with the Web3 space, especially when it comes to gamification. Did you want to introduce the project a little bit and what excited you most about starting it and also the results?
Yeah, totally. Thank you for that. It's kind of funny because Ethan, my co-founder, sat right here on the last panel and talked a little bit about it. But if you're not familiar, LaMelo Ball, NBA Rookie of the Year, he released the first NFT collection that was a dynamic NFT collection in partnership with me and Ethan as Playground Studios. So the collection essentially triggers rewards based on LaMelo's own performance in game, right? So if you think about Melo this year, we're talking about triple doubles left and right. We're talking about double doubles definitely almost every night with points and assists. And his performance, at the Charlotte Hornets, he's the star of the Charlotte Hornets now. The idea of the collection was that. Growing up in LA, Ethan and I were big Lakers fans. If you thought about the fourth quarter of a Lakers game, you realize everybody would cheer, "We want tacos." The idea is that if the Lakers would score more than 100 points and the opposing team would score less than 100 points, then everybody in Staples Center would get 2 tacos from Jack in the Box. We decided to take that logic and apply it to blockchain, apply it to LaMelo in particular, and say, hey, if you're willing to participate in this community, then whatever we decide that LaMelo's trigger reward is, depending on his performance, if he gets a double-double or triple-double, even non-quantitative rewards, if he gets a All-Star Game award or a Rookie of the Year award, that the fans that put their money down to say, hey, we really love LaMelo Ball, they would end up winning some kind of reward based on his performance. Those are the fans that get to say, hey, we time-stamped, we put it down, we love LaMelo Ball. Even when we released the collection, he was out presumably for the season, but he came back. So the idea was that, we created a collection that allowed for people to literally invest in LaMelo Ball's performance and reap rewards based on how well he performed. Of course, Melo is having a remarkable year. And so, we take this, we're thinking about taking this model and then expanding beyond Melo and saying, hey, this is the perfect opportunity to let people invest in an actual athlete's performance and then reap rewards based off being a fan.
Absolutely, as a case study, I definitely see it for years to come. Because for once, like you're saying, the community is directly tied in with the performance of the athlete, and you also get to reap the rewards for positive performance. Also, this is not investment advice. None of this is investment advice. But like, for example, the people that believed in LaMelo before these NFTs came out, they may have bought the shoes, the BBB shoes. But if you own the BBB shoes, you don't really get like any tie-in, any revenue share, any type of benefit from the shoes other than potential appreciation of that specific brand. Because that brand kind of folded, you don't really have shoes after that. The value of that is now indeterminate. Whereas LaMelo's career more likely is going to keep going up. So I look forward to seeing not only this model applied to more professional athletes in basketball, but also on the collegiate level along with other sports. In terms of the future of NFTs and how you're structuring things, are there any other ways you think of structuring utility in? Is there any output you can give us regarding the LaMelo NFTs?
Aside from an individual player, you can think about an entire basketball league. That's the output.
Is that the wink? Okay. So an entire basketball league. I love it. Absolutely love it. And we're going to pop over to social impact. So the way we've seen NFTs so far, a lot of people are talking about it. They're talking about it in terms of monetary terms. They're talking about investing in NFTs. This is not investment advice. They're talking about buying these NFTs as collectibles, hoping for appreciation, hoping for a way to increase their bags. There's many different terms about it. But another thing that we're seeing with NFTs is an exponential effect in terms of social impact. We're seeing NFTs affect communities, affect initiatives, missions on a scale never before seen. And one person that I've seen create amazing positive impact in the NFT space is Scott. Scott, do you want to tell us a bit about the projects that you're working on? Because they're absolutely incredible. They touch my heart and my soul.
Thank you for that
Scott.
intro.
Yeah.
So the project I'm working on is called Liquid Star, and we're doing an NFT drop. One of the things we've always been thinking about is, as I said earlier, how do you tie NFTs to the real world, and have like real world impact because there's all this quote unquote money being generated. So what we did, and actually I literally just got back, is we visited 4 countries in Africa in terms of site visits, and then for our NFT drop, for every 1,500 NFTs we sell, we're going to deploy a charging station that provides electricity and water to people in rural places in Africa, Southeast Asia, and then also randomly Lebanon. And that's in partnership with the UN, USAID, UNICEF, and Acted in terms of nonprofits. But to add some utility, what we're doing is that every quarter, the revenue generated from those charging stations and water stations from Bitcoin mining, the community of NFT holders can vote how that money is distributed in the local community where the charging station is. So it seems kind of like abstract, but what we were thinking is that the real value of NFTs, as we heard earlier, is community. So how can we channel that community to actually solving real world problems, which are the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So yeah, that's kind of the idea behind the Liquid Star NFT drop, is really just taking this community, like empowering it, because what we think will happen is like, okay, let's say every quarter there's about $10,000 worth of Bitcoin to be distributed. What we think will happen is that people will be so invested in the project that if a local community is like, well, we actually need like $10,000 because we need to build a health center, people in the community will be like, okay, well, we'll give you the 5K to do that, but we'll also put in 5K, and now you have your health center. And so that's kind of like the first stage of the drop. And then the second stage is that we're taking advantage of some of the members of our team, and we're actually filming a documentary kind of about the issues of not having electricity. So the example that I always give is, well, my phone's actually dying right now, but it's like, imagine if you had to walk 2 kilometers to charge your phone every single time your phone died. And actually what we saw is that some people walk 2 kilometers and longer than that, and they leave their phone, and then they come back home, and then they go get their phone 2 or 3 days later because they can't really afford to pay to charge it. And that's like how literally 2 billion people on the planet live, right? And so what you see when we're in these spaces is that there's a huge opportunity here. And then the last thing I'll say is that, no offense to all the Web3 blockchain people, most of the stuff that people are creating, we have no need for here. We all use Bank of America. We all use our cell phone. We all use centralized stuff. Everybody's probably posted something on Instagram here tonight. So this decentralization thing, we really don't need it. It's a nice to have. Over there, they literally don't trust anything. They don't trust their bank. They don't trust their government. They don't trust their currency. To a certain extent, they don't trust each other. So blockchain will take off and accelerate way faster over there than here. And you're already seeing it with other technologies, right? So in Kenya, pretty much everybody pays for stuff with cell phone credits, right? And we are just getting mobile pay here with tap to pay, but people in rural Kenya, they have M-Pesa everywhere, and that's kind of how they pay. So anyway, to wrap it up, just our idea with the Liquid Star NFT drop is how do we actually channel what's happening in this NFT community and actually like impact and sort of try to make the world a slightly better place.
Absolutely. And then one thing, Scott, like in terms of the conversation that we've had that I thought was very, very poignant and impactful was that there's actually this one country, an African country, and they have a technical school. And then for you to do anything technical, you need computers, you need to be able to program. But at certain hours, the school actually no longer can provide electricity to the students. So at certain hours of the day, the students are no longer able to do the craft, the program that they're actually trying to program. So with Liquid Star NFTs, with a lot of these positive impact NFTs, in the future, ideally, we can harness solar energy to provide electricity 24/7. So these students can actually have electricity to do what it is they're trying to study, to make the impact that they're trying to make. So for me to see that happening in 2021 was really mind-blowing to me, to see these conditions that exist that I think a lot of us may take for granted, and to see NFTs and Web3 and this technology be able to democratize the way that people can create not just art, but also from a technical level, it is incredible. So Scott, I appreciate everything that you're doing, appreciate you so much. And also, to swing back to the Millball NFTs, one point that we didn't touch upon is that those NFTs in a way also have a positive impact. Because what is sometimes lost is that the people that decide to invest, this is not investment advice, but to invest in the creator, into the Mellow Ball, when they buy these NFTs and the value of these NFTs go up, in a way, if they decide to sell, they now will have that money to improve their lives. So for those NFT projects where the value has gone up, I've seen people use that money to buy cars, they paid off credit card debt. One guy I know, he bought his mom a house. And for his entire life, he wanted to really provide for his mom, and NFTs finally gave him the ability to do that. So NFTs have positive impact. They exist in many places, many spaces that may not be visible, but it's happening. So for the people that are in this room today, if you're not yet in NFTs, come on in, the water is warm. You can wait as long as you want, you don't have to come in immediately, but it's kind of like the internet, it's kind of like email. People waited on the internet. You're like, why would I pay all this money to listen to a beep beep boop boop beep? Why would I pay monthly for that and type into a plastic box? But what we've seen is that when Web 2 came, when internet came, the impact of it hit on an exponential scale. And now with Web 3, we're seeing results on an exponential level. So for those of you that aren't yet in the space, you can wait as long as you want, but the sooner you come in, the better off your lives will be. And that's why I really wanted to swing it over to Jonah to get your thoughts on the Web3 space today and the NFT projects you're in now and looking forward to.
Yeah, I think the Web3 space is, like I briefly touched on before, intimidating at first if you're someone that isn't in there, but as we're advocating for here and myself really pushing for the acceptance of it being new and just being open to learning something new is the first kind of barrier to entry for anybody. For myself with the project, I won't go into all of them specifically. The one that I'm kind of really this environment is in the back. There's DLS, it's Digital Live Workers Syndicate, and it's stemming for myself really just the notion of being like a light worker, helping people, and not always like this. As we touched on before, not always wanting things in return, really just like, I know I can help out, or I know I can just, even technological arbitrage, some people not even knowing how to set up a MetaMask, and we go back to that whole thing, and just little different facets, whatever. So now the whole Web3 and really taking it to being a digital light worker, and knowing that there's 99% of whatever it is of the world just isn't in Web3. And there are people that are in Web3 that want to help and be light workers or be advocates of whatever industry they're in, or athletes, music, finance, whatever. And so the projects that you can think of it like an incubation hub, really from the first timer that is maybe just has an idea but doesn't know where to start. All the way down, all the way up to like a team that just needs a resource or whatever it is. There's no kind of single person or team there. We're really just tapping into passion, creating a space for people to come in and feel comfortable saying that, hey, I don't know what's going on, but I do know that I'm an individual artist in LA, and I've been hearing about NFTs, but I want to get into a community that's not talking about floor price, or I want to get into a community that's not talking about, they're not worried about actually the extrinsics, they're worried about the intrinsics and how we can build. And so that's where, with the project, it's kind of we have it where there's three kind of facets to it. There's the divine key of light holders, which are you can call them the real passionate people, the people that may be more experienced in crypto, or even not even crypto, maybe they're more experienced just in sports and athlete, professional, whatever. But really they're just open to the possibilities of Web3 and providing their resources as a digital light worker, if you want to call it, to the community. And then there's the community members, the people, the teams or whatever, brands that want to get help, bounce ideas, and then have this kind of resource, implement like frameworks to get kind of initiatives and workshops. Even down to like the technologies, we said it's a whole new internet. It really is. Solidity developers are short. There's not a lot of those, and so we're really making like a development boot camp, and just trying to tap on the whole education, but also not passive education, kind of active incubation, and really getting around that whole creative building collective.
That's beautiful. And for a lot of light workers, sometimes the light you create is so bright that people don't actually see the source of the light. So for you, Jonah, as a source of the light, I want to shine the light on you. What are the things that you're passionate about, and how did you wind up falling in love with the NFT Web3 space?
Yeah, the biggest thing I think was just the taking it. At the time I really fell back into it was when it was the end of the end of the season, they just called it off, beginning of COVID actually, when the season was just called off, and that was really when I just took a step back and go, back into crypto, but then it led me to seeing how this is really, at the fundamental layer, bringing people to be truthful, be transparent, and the whole notion of, skin in the game is like, you can't really just, there's no more lying, there's no more, it's really just, are you with us, are you not? That's fine too, there's no discrimination, there's a micro community over there, if you're the micro, and so the notion of decentralization, I think, for me, came back to who we are as humans, the makeup biologically is decentralized, who we have our school community is one, our home community is another, our out of school friends is another, so we have already these decentralized facets, and I think this technology has really now laid the ground, the framework to be able to bring it together, to tap back into those three friends that you had and say, hey, let's make this project, or let's do this down now, we can't do it, and not worry about the monetary side, but know that you put in the passion, the time, and for me it was that the time is what creates the monetary, and so that's really where it came from.
I love it, and that's absolutely the beauty of the Web3 space, is that the barriers to entry right now are still relatively low. And as risky as crypto is, when you create a project, it's still actually relatively low risk, because if you create a project and it doesn't take off as well as you want it to, you could create another project relatively quickly. And if you're able to succeed, you can see exponential success also very, very quickly. So that's one reason I love the Web3 space. Thank you so much, Jonah. And Jonah, who are some of the people that you want to attract to your project? And I love how the light is literally behind you guys.
Everybody, there's no, I don't have a single, I was speaking to somebody before about how just the notion of, your profile pictures or avatars kind of pull back, take you back from that, the ego or the self or whatever you want to call it, and allow for there to be no discrimination. Right? I mean, sure, there's still going to be, and that's just, humans being humans. You have to have, there just is going, we see it with the apes and this whole, there's just a lot of different things, but, my biggest thing is just the non-discriminative aspect of it, and really being able to be like, if you're, like I said, if you're with us, you're with us, if you're not, that's completely fine.
I love that answer. Who is your demographic? Everybody. You live what you say and you say what you live, and I love it. And from one light worker to another, I wanted to shift over to Gladys, because you're getting ready to launch Lost Tribes, and your initial mission was to bring people together, centered around community. You were Web3 before Web3 was even here. So now for you to come into the space as wonderfully as you have, tell us a little bit more about your background, your mission, and the project you're working on.
Yeah, so I'm Gladys, also known as Lost Boy. What I'm here to do in the Web3 is to represent the African indigenous voice as a woman, but also bring the concept of unity. So a little bit about my story is that I was born and raised in France. My family's from Cameroon. I'm a DACA here, and so for those who don't know what a DACA is those children immigrants that have been kind of stuck in the country for many years, and I haven't been home for 20 years going through this limbo as an immigrant. And so as I kind of went through this rite of passage being here in America, I started to really see the universal pattern of what systematic oppression looks like. And something that was missing in my life because I was unable to go home was literally home experience. And so as I started to renounce to my own dream as a DACA, whether it was my physics background or all the dreams that I had as a little girl coming here, I was just like, well, for me to sustain my sanity, what I need to do is to create more home experience. And so I started to do it through the mean of food and breaking bread. And so I met a bunch of people, including William, within my vision of literally building this Afro-Indigenous solo house in Topanga, because I thought it was kind of a little too kumbaya for me. And William met me, and he just thought, when he saw what I was offering and what the NFT is bringing, we kind of started to say, like, okay, so if the NFT is the matrix, what we are doing with the HUD, which is the name of this project, is we're creating a Zion to this matrix. And so for me, what I'm trying to really, bring with my partner there, Akila, is what culture looks like. I think that there's a lot of loose terms when it comes down to saying, like, we're building community, WAGMI, we're all going to make it. And I'm looking in the crowd and I'm like, so how are we gonna all make it? Because there are some people that are surviving. Our parents don't know what NFT is. All the third culture kids that are out here, like we're all third culture kids. And I think that we have such a beautiful opportunity to say, what does it look like for us to tap into the simplest form of humanity, which is the inner child? And so we created this NFT series called Lost Tribes, where it's this representation of like my inner child as this neurodivergent African woman who was just like, yo, this world is way too complicated for me to show what love is. And I decided to create an NFT that will get me to acquire this property in Topanga Canyon. And it was hard because, like, to be honest, like, I did literally at the beginning of my journey in NFT everything that you're not supposed to be doing. And I've learned that instead of just, fitting into the NFT world, I had to be bringing the NFT to my vision. And so what we do out here is to bring, food, culture, substance, by just saying, if there's a squad in the NFT, with a squad. If you ever have any events or anything, like we're here to show what grandmother cooking is, what culture is, what the essence of Africa is. And so that's what we decided to do with this vision. And I think that something that I'm inviting all of us to do is to really take the time to really build true community. Because as so many of us said, there is, when something becomes a magnifier, there is everything and nothing that takes place. And I really want to make sure that this community represents the true essence of humanity. So in a way, that's what we do as Lost Tribes, as me being a grandmother in training. That's me, that's us, that's it.
Thank you so much, Laz. And where can we find your NFTs and your project?
Well, we just got a collection that started in Miami through Origin Protocol. So it's out here. We actually extended the auction because we just heard crickets for the first days or two, just to be real. And so we just believe that right now we're just trying to focus on the journey, but it's on Origin Protocol platform. It's also like there's some displaying out there with the QR. I swear to God, I'm like so neurodivergent in technology, so I'm trying to pretend that I know everything about my shit. So it's out there. Just find some way to get into it. And if you don't find it, just find me and Akila and Dwayne and Scott and William. We're out here. So yeah, thank you.
That's true, I love it. And one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that when Bored Apes first came out, the Bored Ape Yacht Club, it was sitting there for probably about a week and it didn't sell out. And they had maybe like a quarter of the way through, they started giving out honoraries, they started figuring out who it was they could talk to in the community to really start to get momentum. So if you first launch a project in the Web3 space and you don't sell it immediately, you don't have all the success that you want, just stick with it. Because sometimes if you stick with it, the right people will find it, the right people will love it, and then you're gonna get the massive acceleration that you're looking for. So, Bored Ape Yacht Club, a full week and a half, only sold a quarter of the project. The rest of the project, 3/4 sold out in basically 5 hours with the right people. So once you find the right community, once you find the right people that you want to build around, that's gonna be way more important than your project selling out initially, and then the community abandoning it. So for all of us positive impact workers, building the right communities is so important. So for all of us, all of our projects, those are the amazing entrees and desserts. But of course, you need the kitchen tools. So for that, we want to toss over Bradley and the organization DAO.
Right. DAOs are fantastic, and they're going to change the world, right? For so long, the way that we've structured our society, and particularly the capital in our society, is just that returns lead to concentrated returns, lead to more concentrated returns. And the result there is that there's a few cities in the world that control most of the money, right? And it's harder than ever for the average person to actually put their money into something that can get a decent return. It's also really hard for the average person to give their money to something that they think is worthwhile and worthy, right? So for the example that Scott gave with Liquid Star, we'll be able to make a DAO there. And people from all over the world who recognize the challenge of walking 2 kilometers each way on multiple days just to charge their cell phone, people who recognize how bad that challenge is will now have the ability to put whatever they can into the DAO, and it's not micro-lending, right? It's not a loan. This is a risk for the people who are putting money in, and that's also really important. We're not just building another, debt trap structure. like other portions of the world are offering. So, you know, this is the way to rebuild the global economy and avoid most of the worst mistakes that we have imbued into our system over the last 100 years. That's what gets me excited about DAOs. And that's, you know, there's a lot of good tooling being built right now. I could talk about that, but not here, too early. I'll leave it there.
I love it. As we build these tools, of course, we want to play, especially if we're building a lot of fun toys. So as we talk about Web3, as we talk about how society is evolving and people coming together, we of course have to talk about the metaverse. Facebook changing their entire company brand over to Meta. META, as Bradley shakes his head. How can you centralize something that's inherently decentralized? We'll see how it goes.
Other thing that's the most important about Web3 is that it restores sovereignty to us as individuals, right? If you own your keys, you own your money. If you get together with many friends who own their keys, you can start building a currency that you own, right? So this is the building blocks of like DeFi and Web3, but obviously that's still fairly inaccessible for a lot of us. When it comes to the metaverse, which is much more social, it's basically the social layer, right? And there's a lot of gaming that's going to take place in the social layer, there's a lot of communication. But what is critically important is we must figure out how to build the cornerstones of this new system in a sovereign way, right? Like if we, again, just like concentrated returns focused in a few cities around the world have really wrecked us hard, we have to do the exact same thing we have to do the opposite. We have to do the opposite in the metaverse, right? We own it. It is part of our culture, right? Like this is communication and the collective conscious takes place online now in social venues, right? We have to make sure that we own that we hold it and we protect it. So that's my statement on sovereignty.
I love it. Thank you. And as we get ready to wrap, of course, the panel is about the future of NFTs. So for those of us that are literally creating the future or have created it and created such innovative use cases for NFTs that other people are learning from and emulating and building off of, I just want to go one by one to tell us what your vision of the future of NFTs are.
Unlimited gamification. I think unlimited gamification is what we all really want. It's probably what we all can't necessarily perceive, which is okay. The idea is that, you know, when we go and do things, our daily behaviors don't have unlimited they don't have gamification in general. It's mostly just transactional. The idea is that as we go forward, when we participate in something like a LaMelo Ball's community, and then expanding, you know, the NBA community as a whole, stocks as a whole, you know, is some specific artists that we all love as a whole, some musical artists that we love as a whole, we'll be able to not just say, hey, we love that artist, but we also can say, hey, you know, you put your money towards, you know, an arbitrary example would be maybe like, oh, you put your money towards My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye, as opposed to, you know, I Love Donda by Kanye. What that actually means, we haven't really decided. But, you know, over time, the idea is that we can not just be fans and say from a binary perspective, yes, I am a fan, or no, I'm not a fan, or yes, I follow that person, or no, I don't follow that person, but actually be able to say, hey, I'm a LaMelo Ball fan because I think LaMelo Ball is a really talented basketball player, versus the other person that says, I think I'm a LaMelo Ball fan because, you know, I know so many young teenage girls that think he's just hot. Right. So like being able to actually decipher why we love the things and the people that we love, and be able to join the communities that we love because we share an adjacent purpose into why we love that person, as opposed to, or thing, as opposed to just saying, hey, we love that person or thing or not. So being able to actually identify why and then create communities based off why we love that person or thing. I think that's what I see a lot of the future stemming from. Many communities that articulate our love for that person or thing more accurately than just saying, hey, from a binary perspective, I do like or don't like that thing.
I love it. Qualitative to quantitative.
I have so many things that I'm excited about, but I'll just pick one. So there's a really cool trend in music recently. This actually kind of goes back to something Baron Davis said about kind of the atomization of content. But remix culture is about to take off in a huge way. Right? right? It's going to take probably another year and a half before we see how cool it's going to be. But just as an example, I recently joined Bleeps DAO. Bleeps DAO is just little sound samples created within the EVM, right? And I own a G4 square wave. So we're working on a melody creator, and people will make melodies using the sound source from the DAO, and then we're all going to get royalties based on that. So I picked G because that's obviously the best note. And square wave, nothing better than square wave. So I'm just gonna be raking it in as people make all these remixes of the G4 square wave. So anyway, remix culture is one thing to keep an eye on.
We'll make sure we listen in.
I just want decentralized freedom and abundance for all. Like I want NFT to be available where our grandmothers can be like, hey, don't worry about it, I got you. I just want people to, I wanted to make it so available that it transcends the world of survival. I think that we are very lucky and grateful to, like very privileged to actually be in this type of industry, but I want it to be reached out to all the corners in the world. And so if we can do that and, you know, no longer feel the limitation of this reality, I will be so happy. And culture and food and abundance and lavish living, that's it. That's it, I'm done.
I love it.
I would say individual empowerment is mine. I think this is, like I've said, you know, quite often just the notion of the individual knowing that they can, you know, not rely on the corporation or not rely on the, you know, I mean, if you just get back to them wanting, the artist wanting to do art, but he's going to go in, you know, Monday to Friday and do work 9 to 5. And so that then now this is like, you know, totally transpired that to where it's like, you know, you can, obviously this is not just anybody that flicks the switch, this is someone, those that take it upon themselves and put that responsibility on themselves and have the skill and talent and you know, all the things needed to be an artist. But there's so many people that I've seen, just not even just art as well, just, you know, I think just creative thinkers and you know, talking like, you know, gamification. There's just people that are, like Facebook kind of introduced us to you know, psychological incentives through gamification. I think Web3 can take that model and consciously apply it, you know, to where we're not, you know, the whole data stuff, but really taking it to where you can gamify you know, your community with incentives for the community and, you know, tapping it on and off chain, real world, metaverse. But yeah, I think, you know, back to the individual that knows about it, takes time to do your own research, DIY, you know, that's the kind of, you know, it's a real thing. Once you do it, you kind of start to realize, like, damn, okay, now I want to, you know, tell my friends or get people involved and do this thing. So I think the individual empowerment.
I love it. So Jonah's excited about individuals. He's excited about you individually in this room.
Yeah. So I guess I'll go with two things. The one thing I think that will be in the future is a lot of failed NFT projects, and I think that's a good thing because I think you maybe said it on the first panel, or someone said on the first panel. It's like it's the people who just fail repeatedly that end up creating something cool. So I'll just use myself as an example. Like, I tried to pitch Christie's the concept of AR and NFTs back in 2018 in Hong Kong. Complete silence. They're like, what the hell are you talking about? Get out of here. I tried to pitch NBA Asia, same thing. Sorry, specifically NBA Hong Kong. They're like, this is stupid. Like, why not just get a digital sticker? Both of those organizations are big into NFTs. And then even more recently, this year, I tried to do a hologram NFT drop with Danny Green, and I think that was my like pro athlete moment in this space where I really felt like shit because it didn't sell. Even we felt like we did everything right, and we felt really bad that it didn't sell. But then it was like nobody actually gave a shit that it didn't sell. They were like, "Yo, this is so cool." And then someone that you introduced me to in Puerto Rico yesterday, they were like, they were just talking about the project. They were like, "What? That didn't sell." And it was like, he was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's super cool." So I think that's just kind of an important thing. And then like on the positive side, I think what NFTs will build is incentive-aligned communities, and you already see that with like Board 8 Yacht Club and some of the other ones, we have like a group of people that believe in a cause, believe in art, and they sort of just have formed their own community, and that community keeps everybody in check because they don't want to sort of like ruin the brand of the community. And then you start to see these things where like now some of these communities are like, well, we need to have a 10% donation to XYZ social cause, right? And so it's just creating this like ecosystem of what I think it will be is quasi-decentralized communities that are connected, and they all have aligned incentive. And a great example that I'll wrap it up with on this panel is that what she's talking about and what I'm talking about is actually like the same thing, just literally inverted. I'm going over there, you're trying to bring over there, here, right? And so obviously in the future, there's going to be ways for us to work together on that, and our incentives are completely aligned because we both at the core have the same goal. So that's kind of the thing that I'm most excited about.
Yes, and then one thing to remember is that the guy that first realized the Earth revolved around the sun, they threw him in jail. So sometimes coming early and sometimes knowing what the right thing is makes you a genius. You may not be appreciated for it, but one way or another, you'll be remembered for it. And when you bring up incentivization and community protecting itself, one great example is the cool cat community. We love the cats. So there was one person that actually changed their picture to a cool cat that didn't have the best reputation because he had had unfortunate incidences with minors. So because of that, people in the community said, hey, you know what, they reached out to him directly, please change your Twitter picture, just because we want this to be a beautiful community that's family oriented, that's a strong brand, and we're not sure what the story is, but if you could, please change your picture. And he actually wound up changing his picture. So when you say communities are incentivized to protect each other, that's definitely the case, especially in Web3, where there is no centralized entity to go to. If you get scammed, there's no main company, no support, customer service you can email or contact. The community has to protect itself. So that's one big component of Web3 that we're seeing as we go into the future, is the community protecting itself. And failed projects aside, if you guys do want to launch your own projects like Lattice, you can check out Origin Protocol's story.xyz, where you can put your own NFTs on there, totally for free to put them up. They take credit cards, you can mint them. Most recently, we did the Inspiration 4 NFTs, raised almost $500,000 for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. And when we did that, the St. Jude's contact person, he was getting a ton of heat because he was trying to explain to a conservative administration, this is cryptocurrency. When we do this, you're going to be able to make money and use this money to do things. And it wasn't until the cryptocurrency hit their wallet that the administration finally show me the money. I'm so glad that you guys came through. Now everyone believes me. So sometimes the results that these people are really putting out into this world, the results are what bring people in. So for all these people in the room, the results are here, the people are here, the executors are here, the builders are here, all of you are here. Go out and do it and try it. If you fail it, no one will remember. And if you hit it big, don't forget us.